All right, everybody. Heritage Sports Podcast. We watch Coach Prime, the Amazon Prime series, episode one. This is a live recap for it. The episode is really, really long. I will say I didn't think it was going to be that long. It was over an hour, so this can hopefully summarize what in case you don't have enough time or you just want a little precursor on what exactly happened. All right, so the series starts off with the press conference, the infamous one where Deion's introduced. That was in 2021. Everything was good. That was before all the tribulations happened. I'm talking about the foot and ice storm and stuff like that. They show the conference, but they breeze by it and they drop you into early summer 2022. So June 2022. They actually have the first Deion Sanders, Nick Saban meeting. It was out in California. They had their Aflac commercial, and it was the first time them meeting face to face. From Nick Saban making these offhand comments saying that Jackson State gave $1 million to Travis Hunter to have Travis travel to Jackson State. So I remember that like it was yesterday because Deion was very, very vocal in saying, I had not talked to Nick Saban, even though he's reached out to my people and wanted to talk to me. He says, no, on those type of things, if you disrespect me publicly, we got to have a public conversation before you can, before we can move on. Now, I thought when he said that, I was like, I don't know. And honestly, I think they've had a private conversation about it, but they actually had a public conversation on the comments. Nick said something, and Deion said what he did. It was how he felt about the conversation. He kind of felt it wasn't about him, and Nick was basically saying the same thing. This is where college athletics is going with the NIL deals. Kids are going to get $2 million, $3 million. And there's no cap, there's no stopping it. And so their main thing was somebody needs to get ahead of this and maybe set some parameters. But what was interesting? Deion said he was recruiting a kid, and the kid just up and said, yeah, well, let's talk about the business. And Deion was like, let's talk about what business? And the guy was basically saying, hey, what are you going to pay me? And Deion said, no, that you're not the kid for our program, and moved on. So I really thought that was interesting. They had that public conversation, took a few minutes, and then they did their Aflac commercial, which was so random. Now, fast forward a few weeks, they're back in Jackson, Mississippi for the XFL showcase, which was great. You kind of seen that on their different YouTube channels beforehand, but this was first long form, in depth, what exactly went down. They had The Rock there. They had Dany Garcia, the CEO of the XFL there. And they were in Jackson, Mississippi for the HBCU Combine, basically like a showcase. And it was the first stop for the XFL. And the first thing I thought with all that talent there, it seemed like XFL may be like HBCU plus. They're going to try to go that route, which would be really entertaining football because there was a lot of talented kids that I saw. Now, at this point in the series, the episode, I watched maybe 5 minutes of it, 10 minutes of it. If you remember or go and watch the Barstool sports, covering of Deion at Jackson State, it's completely different. Okay. So at this point, the Amazon Prime show is super polished. It's not as raw as the Barstool Sports one. The Barstool Sports seems like they were just, following, getting the shots, getting it out, getting it cut up, and living with the results, even if it was uncomfortable moments. This seems to be way more packaged, cleaner, and ready to go. So if you're looking for a raw kind of reality TV show or series that you saw on Barstool Sports, you're not going to see that. The next thing after they did that, they went over some of the coaches. They talked about Andre Hart being there. They fast forward to one day before the preseason, and they were talking about different coaches. Andre Hart, again, has been with Deion for 20 years. He has his mindset on being a head coach, and he says he's following Deion, and that's what's going to eventually happen. And he's good. From my understanding, the linebackers coach at Colorado, which is a major thing to have on someone's resume, and so we'll see how his career progresses. Then it's day one of the preseason, and training camp was really long, but I loved how they set the stage with the different quotes that Deion gives not only to his coaches. He meets with his coaches privately, then he goes to, the team. But the overall message to me was you got to be present in the moment, no matter who you are, whether you're a student athlete, a coach, a training person. You got to be present in the moment currently, and that means you got to win wherever you are. And he not only said win in the locker room, win on the field, but win at home. So you got to be present home with family. I thought that went really, really well. Now they then went on to player profiles. They had a kid from Florida State that had transferred, number 23. Apparently, him and Coach Mike Norvell didn't get along, and Deion was right there for him. He said, "Man, come on down to Jackson State," and that's where he is. He also flipped another recruit. He goes by Nugget. He was set to go to UGA as a transfer coming from community college. Ended up going to Jackson State, and that was just because of Coach Prime. Deion Sanders. He is a cornerback. He feels like he can learn and go to the NFL based on that experience. I will say, out of those two, Nugget seemed to have the NFL body. He seemed to have like NFL readiness. And if I say NFL body, it's me being a former NFL agent. I know what I'm looking for. I know how to evaluate talent and what is going to be draftable. But and I'll talk about Nugget a little bit later on in my summary. Okay, so then they have the first, like I said, they're having the first team meeting. He's setting what are the expectations, and the main thing is dominate. You gotta dominate to elevate, and he kept saying that over and over again. I think that's going to be a theme throughout the series. If you dominate, you can elevate, and to me, that's painting a picture. That's setting the stage on what's to come. If you dominate, you can elevate. He kept saying it, and I'm thinking, okay, what does that mean? If you're dominating on every facet of your life, you're going to be elevated to the next one. And I definitely think he's talking about setting the stage of him leaving as a coach to another university. That's the first time I wrote that down, and I was like, oh, that seems to be glaring. But we'll get to another thing in a second. They had like 14 days of training camp, and then between those, they went on to do profiles on Shador for his as him being a quarterback of the Jackson State Tigers. Now, this was interesting. Again, foreshadowing. His first play called by his offensive coordinator that was filmed. They didn't say the whole play name, but they basically said trips right Buffalo, and I was like, oh, that's quite the sign to have that be the first play that we kind of hear. Trips right Buffalo, Colorado Buffaloes. So it seemed to be foreshadowing a lot, very heavy on the first episode. I'm thinking, man, what's going on? They bring in Travis Hunter, have him come. He's a freshman again. It's his first few days on campus. We find out he's a big fisherman. He loves to fish bass, which was interesting. And another thing he said, he was basically giving talking points to me. He was saying, I'm here to show people can be 5 stars and go to HBCUs and stuff like that. All of that was crap. I mean, it was about him going and learning from Coach Prime. He said it had a lot of family from the Florida area, the northern Florida area, basically. And to me, that had a significant influence. They knew who Deion was. Matter of fact, when they showed high school clips, he was doing Deion's dance when he scored. So, yeah. Then they did something cool. They went, as you could tell, they were going from a lot of different scenes. They went to Deion's 55th birthday celebration, and Master P was hosting that celebration. Romeo wasn't there, in case you were wondering. And then they have the quick little family moment, and bam, they drop the water crisis in Jackson on you. Just right there. Bam. August 2022, right before the season starts, all of this blows up in the city. They show the governor of Mississippi saying this is a state of emergency. Do not drink the water. Do not use your water. Please, anything dealing with water in the city of Jackson, please do not use. So at that point, the Deion goes into, we got to get these kids prepared, no excuses. He brings them to a hotel, I'm assuming outside of the city, and getting them ready for the FAMU game. So they stay a few days at the hotel, then they fly out to Miami, where they play FAMU, and they were dominant, very, very dominant. But which was cool, he showed his star power and how many people came to the the practices right before FAMU. So they went in Miami, and it was really cool to see Michael Vick just out of nowhere, and all these other NFL Hall of Famers just come out of nowhere. So that was really, really cool to see. Quick notes. I noticed Travis seems to be an emotional player. He definitely, was very thankful to play at that particular time in that particular game. Um, so I thought that was something to notice. And I did not think they did a lot of favors for Nugget. Again, I mentioned him earlier. His body seems to be very NFL ready as a cornerback and could possibly play on the next level. But they went really deep delved into his mental state and how he can be off one day and the other, which I had an appreciation for mental health. But if I'm a scout and I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, man, I don't know what guy's going to show up, and if my job's on the line, I don't know if I want somebody where I don't know what to expect from him every day. Now I'm rooting for the kid, I really am. I just I thought Amazon didn't do him, not excuse me, Amazon, but the show didn't do him any favors with that. The other parts of the things I wanted to talk to you all about, they showed the FAMU game, and to me, again, I'm worried about Deion long term as far as, is he going to be able to coach for 5 years? In the first half, he had to sit down. It was it wasn't even a. I get it was the first part of the game, and you didn't know if you were going to win the game or not. But to me, Jackson State won the game like 52-3. Eventually, you could tell pretty much in the first half who the dominant team was. So that's just my concerns. Just I spoke about that on my channel before. I hope he makes the complete contract, and I hope he's doing okay, and I hope he can get to a better level. But I'm really concerned about that. And I am such a fan of Coach Prime because of what they showed. So during FAMU's game, at halftime, he got news that his grandmother had passed. He left the locker room, called his mom, and checked on them and asked if he needed to come right there. That was such a big moment, such a thoughtful moment, because I know me, he's a better man than me. I would have gone. I would have been there. I wouldn't have been at the game, but he was there, and he was able to put his emotions aside, be a professional, go out and continue to lead men. Even though his voice was cracking, you could tell he knew he had a job to do, and he was going to continue to do so. So I learned a lot from that part. He had incredible strength. And from there, they went on to the next episode 2, to a preview. I cannot wait to watch that and talk to you all about it some more, give you all another summary. Overall, I thought the episode was great. The themes, the what goes into everyday operations. Like, you just would not believe how much stuff and behind the scenes access you were able to get, how much more stuff they did for the kids, and having to deal with the water crisis in the middle of a season. Like, just because you get a kids in a hotel for a few days, and then you fly to Miami, you come back and it's still, nonsense going on. And it's not just the football team that's affected. It's every citizen, every resident of Jackson and surrounding. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in episode 2. But just the stuff they had to overcome was incredible. A lot of tribulations in the beginning of the season. Very, 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 very good episode. I'm glad they took us behind the scenes. All right, y'all, stay tuned. I can't wait to recap the next few episodes for the Coach Prime docuseries, Heritage Sports Podcast.